Hello, this is Mr. Frank, and welcome to I Can Simplify Negative and Zero Exponents. It's Learning Target 14A. We're at the beginning of a new unit. We got 4 days of lessons here, plus a review, and then another test. So let's start with a review on powers and exponents. I know you've seen this before. So a power here, this whole thing is considered a power. It's a way to write repeated multiplication. So the exponent tells us how many times the base is multiplied. So here, b to the 8 means we're going to multiply b times b times b times b 8 times. We're going to have 8 b's. So just again for review, so 4 to the second power would look like this, 4 times 4. And we'd say that as 4 to the second power, or 4 squared. That equals 16. And you can have 2 to the third power, which would be 2 times 2 times 2. We read that as 2 to the third power. When it's a third power, you can say cubed as well. That equals 8. And here's one with a variable. Y to the fourth power would be y times y times y times y. And we read that as y to the fourth power. So let's talk about the power of 0. And no, I'm not talking about code 0. I'm talking about the power of 0, which means any number other than 0 to the power of 0 equals 1. So this sounds pretty easy to just remember. Anytime you see an exponent of 0, any number to the power of 0, except if if a can't equal 0, but any other number to the power of 0 equals 1. So 2 to the 0, that equals 1. Let's do some examples. 3 to the 0, what do you think that equals? That equals 1. 100 to the power of 0, that equals 1. Do you see the pattern going on here? X to the power of 0, so any number other than 0, so I'm going to say x does not equal 0 here, to the power of 0, equals 1. Now here, this one's a little different. I have a coefficient here, number 2 here before x0. And remember, order of operations with PEMDAS, I do exponents before I do multiplication. So here, this is really 2 times x to the power of 0, which is 1. So 2x to the power of 0 means 2 times 1, which is 2. So be careful. X to the power of 0 is always 1, but there could be a coefficient there which could change your answer. So just be careful on that. So your turn. I want you to do these 4, and then come back and we'll check your work. So pause here, do the 4, and then come back. All right, welcome back. Let's see how you did. 4 to the power of 0, guess what? That equals 1. 1,000 to the power of 0, guess what? That equals 1 as well. Now here, remember, we got a coefficient, so 3x to the 0. We have to do the coefficient first with the power. So we do the exponent. We do the exponent first. So x to the 0 is 1, so it's really 3 times 1, and that equals 3. And down here, I just snuck in a negative sign. Don't get confused by that. It just becomes negative 3 times 1, which is negative 3. So let's actually look at a visual to see why this works. And I took out my handy-dandy grow gun, because everyone should have one of those. And I've got a mouse, because everyone should have one of those too. And I'm going to set my grow gun. You see here, I just set it to 3. So that's going to be my base. So I'm going to set this to 3 as my base. I could set it to another number, but we're just going to use 3. And I'm going to zap my mouse, and I'm going to grow it 3 to the power of something. Each time I zap it, it's like a power. So watch this. So if I start out, here's my ruler. So that mouse is about 1 inch, right? Goes from about 5 to 6. So that's 1 inch. And when I don't shoot it at all, I haven't shot my gun yet. And I told you it's set to the base of 3. The height of the mouse is 1. Right? So now check this out. I'm gonna shoot my grow gun. Oh, you hear that? Oh, cool. Check out what happened to the mouse. Since I set this to a base of 3, the mouse is now, I did one shot, the mouse is now 3 inches tall. Look at that, 4 to 7, or 3 to the first power. Now, we've learned that before. 3 to the first power, any number to the first power is just that number. And the height here is now, we have 3 inches. I'm going to zap my gun again. You ready? Holy cow, this is getting exciting. Holy cow. So I did 2 shots now. 2 shots, my base is still 3, I haven't changed that on my gun. And this is like 3 times 3, which is 3 squared, which gives me a height of 9. Look at that. It goes from 10, 1, so 1 to 10, that's 9. What, are you nervous? If I shoot this again, what's going to happen? Holy cow, the mouse is taking over the world. Look at that. I shot it again. We can't even measure it. It's bigger than the ruler. But on the third shot, it's 3 times 3 times 3, which is 3 cubed, or 27 inches. Holy cow, this grow gun is out of control. Now, I'm not going to zap it again. It makes me too nervous. This thing might take over the world. But let's go back and take a look at what we saw here. The height increased by a factor of 3 each time, meaning I multiplied it by 3 each time. So if I work backwards, I can say I'm dividing by 3 each time if I take away a shot. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, right? And we know that. And now look what I did here. The powers, this is 3 to the first, 3 to the second, 3 to the third power. Well, what if I go backwards? 3 to the third, 3 to the second, 3 to the first, 3 to the 0. So we just showed that 3 to the 0 power equals 1, or really anything to the 0 power other than the number 0 equals 1. So we just saw that with the mouse. Pretty cool, right? So that's how we deal with 0 exponents and why it works the way it works. So now let's get to negative exponents. Let's do a little review on vocabulary. So reciprocal. 2 non-zero numbers are reciprocal if their product is 1. So for example, 2/3 and 3/2 are reciprocal. And sometimes I like to just think about it as you flip the fraction, right? I just flip this over to this, and that's how I get a reciprocal. So, and just to show you that these are reciprocals, if you multiply them out, they equal 1. With negative exponents, what you do, we don't want to deal with a negative exponent. We want to make it a positive because we know how to deal with positive exponents. So we change the exponent to its opposite, and then we use the reciprocals. Let me show you what that means. So 2 to the power of negative 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the exponent to its opposite, and then I'm going to make it into its reciprocal. So it's 1 over 2 to the power of 3. So let me show you again. 2 to the negative 3 is the same as 1 over 2 to the power of 3. Now I know how to do 2 to the power of 3. It's 2 times 2 times 2, but I keep my fractions going here. So 1 over 2 times 2 times 2 is the same as 1 over 8. That's how I do negative exponents. So let's check out what this looks like with the mouse. I don't have a grow gun anymore. I now have a shrink gun. So I'm going to shoot it with the shrink gun. And the way I think about the shrink gun, look at that, the mouse is shrinking. The way I think about the shrink gun, it's negative to the grow gun. So it's almost like I took a -1 shot, right? So the shots are going down here. The shrink gun is kind of like undoing a shot each time. So now I move to the negative numbers. So my base is still 3. So I have 1/3 is my size. 1 over 3, what I did here, 3 to the -1, right? I made the exponent positive, and I took the reciprocal. So the height is 1/3. Check out that tiny mouse. I can get rid of all our mice problems with my shrink gun. Let's do it again. Oh, that mouse is really small. How small do you think it is? Let's see. If I did -2 shots, because each shrink gun is a negative shot, I now have 1 over 3 times 3, right? Kind of 1 over 3 to the second power, 1 over 3 times 3. The height is 1/9. And you can see as I go down here each time, I'm dividing by a factor of 3 each time. And if you're going from smallest to highest, I'm growing by a factor of 3, meaning I'm multiplying by 3. So you don't have to memorize this table. I just wanted you to see how it works. And look at that tiny little mouse. He's not going to bother us anymore. So let's get some practice here. 3 to the -2. I change the exponent to its opposite, and then I take the reciprocal. So I have 1 over 3 squared, which is 1 over 3 times 3, or 1/9. Check this out. I got 2 to the -4. Exponent is -4, so I make the exponent into its opposite, and I take the reciprocal. So I have 1 over 2 to the 4th, which is 1 over 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 1 over 16. Now this gets tricky. Look at this. I already have a fraction. My negative exponent is in my denominator, but I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to take the opposite of my exponent, and I'll take the reciprocal. So the reciprocal is 2 squared over 1, right? It's 2 squared over 1. I just flipped the fraction just like I did before. It doesn't matter that the negative exponent starts in the denominator. And that's 2 times 2 over 1, or 4 over 1, or just simply 4. So now it's your turn. A couple of examples that I want you to do. So pause here, get that work done. All right, welcome back. Hope you did well with that. Bring it back to class tomorrow. And as always, Let me know what you learned or were reminded of, and let me know what questions that you have. Hope you enjoyed the video.